Confrontation in the workplace can be incredibly stressful, especially if you're a manager who really likes when there's collaboration in your team, when you like it when people are able to get along and work well together. So today we're going to look at 9 tips to address confrontation in the workplace. Okay, so confrontation in the workplace. We're going to go through 9 strategies, 9 things you can do to make sure that you are addressing this well. I've got my handy list here because I can't remember where I put my wallet half the time, never mind the 9 tips that I wanted to share with you today. The first one is to make a decision that you are going to address conflict and confrontation. It's all too easy to avoid it, or to avoid it until it becomes something we absolutely have to deal with. The problem is, though, that the conflict is there brewing under the surface, whether you're addressing it or not. And frankly, it gets worse when it doesn't get addressed. And then it's going to blow up to a point that you're going to want to deal with it even less. So committing to addressing it early on it feels difficult and scary now. It's the easier route in the long term. So number 1, make a commitment to address it. Number 2, instead of seeing conflict as threatening and scary, remind yourself that it's actually a step towards collaboration, towards harmony, towards teamwork. And for somebody who likes their team to work well together, reminding yourself of that will help to energize you and propel your energy in the direction of addressing instead of avoiding it. Number 3, and this might provoke a little bit of anxiety, but number 3 is to do your best to address it in person. So nowadays in person, maybe via Zoom if necessary, but try to avoid dealing with this just by phone or email if possible. Now listen, if dealing with confrontation is so anxiety producing that you need to start by email, that is okay too, but just know that it's usually more productive if you're able to do it in person. So that's something to work towards in smaller steps. Number 4 is to focus on the behavior, not the person, when you're having a discussion about it. So try to stay out of discussing any particulars about the person, any traits, any characteristics. Do not make the discussion personal. Stick to the facts, stick to the behaviors that are problematic, and it's going to ensure that the discussion becomes a little less inflamed and is a bit more productive. Number 5 is to make sure that you acknowledge the other person's point of view. Part of what makes negotiating confrontation so hard is that it often quickly escalates. Emotions get high and then we're not hearing the other person. So reminding yourself that every time before you speak, you want to try to acknowledge or validate what the other person has said. That's going to make the interaction go a bit more smoothly. Number 6 is don't forget to also assert your position. So yes, it's important to acknowledge what the other person says, but we also want to be sure that you don't just defer to what they're saying and agree with what they're saying if you do disagree. So for conflict to be navigated successfully, you have to hear the other person and also be willing to assert your point of view. So that's something to practice also. Number 7 is to keep your emotions in check. So dealing with conflict is stressful, and often our emotions get out of hand. We can get so upset, even if we're not sharing that visibly on the outside, that it really affects our ability to stay present in the conversation. So some people have a tendency to become very outwardly angry and upset, and some people do it more internally and then shut down and step away from the conversation. Do your best to keep your emotions in check, and that's going to really help optimize your ability to stay in that conversation. Number 8, we have to cut it, but we'll just edit it because I can't remember number 8. Okay, just wait. It had nothing to do with her. Number 8 is to remind yourself that it's not personal. Whatever is being said to you, try not to take that personally, because when you're in a confrontation, the other person may not stick to the facts and the behaviors. They may be saying things about you that are hurtful, that are harmful, that don't seem fair to you. And just keep reminding yourself that to try not to take those things personally. They're oftentimes a reflection of the other person or other stressors. Try to only pay attention to the behaviors that they are highlighting and none of the personal attacks that you may be exposed to. And then number 9, the very last tip would be try to learn from each and every experience. So this means that it's not going to go perfectly the first time. Frankly, it's rarely going to go perfectly. But after each new interaction that you have dealing with confrontation, reflect afterwards. What went well? What worked? What didn't go so well? What would you not do again? What can you try differently next time to make that interaction go more smoothly? And this is really a long-term process of developing new habits and new behaviors over time, reflecting on what works and what doesn't. That is what is going to bring you the most success in learning how to deal with confrontation at work. So I hope that this has been helpful to you. If you're interested in more information, more support in how to deal with confrontational people in the workplace, you can go to my website, lindsaylapaquette.com, and book a discovery call. They're a complimentary 30-minute discovery call, and we can discuss this a bit further. Thanks.